Good evening. I didn't really know what best to title the show tonight because the title might be a bit misleading, but I think what I have to offer you tonight is more important than probably anything else you could derive from it. So, as you know, things are instrumentally getting worse across the nation. Now, that being said, we have had some progress. Southwest Airlines has apparently backed down on their mandate for their employees. Yet to see what happens with the Chicago Police Department. Of course, we know that there are several Washington state troopers that are defiant, if you will. And we'll just see how this unfolds. However, this change of heart, I guess, with say Southwest Airlines, and I'm sure other entities to come, is not going to be an end to the agenda. Not going to be an end to it. Because they are hell-bent on pushing this through. That might just be the end of them using that approach. Let's not forget. Let's not forget the plans are for the IRS to be directly connected to all of your accounts at all times. I'm telling you, they're ready to pull out all the stops for this. But that's not even what I want to discuss with you. What I want to discuss with you is people and groups. And I know there's a lot of people out there right now that feel awful alone. A lot of people that are concerned because they see all of this stuff happening. You can't really ignore it. And maybe they're a little late to the party as far as the quote-unquote preparedness party. They don't have a mag, they don't have a group, they haven't even really talked to many people about prepping. Don't sweat it. And I know saying that probably sounds, I don't know. You're probably laughing at me, to be honest. But I mean it when I say don't sweat it. There's a reason why. You see, there is one thing for certain to put a wrench in any amount of plans that we put together. It doesn't matter how well you think it out, how well you plan, how well you put it down on a piece of paper. There is one thing that will screw it up every single time, and you will never, ever be able to change that. And that is something called the human factor. The human factor. It doesn't matter how well you have things planned out. People aren't machines. Right? So, just because you think somebody might do something doesn't mean they will. You can trust a machine a little better to be able to perform the task that it was designed for because it's a machine. That's all it does. But humans aren't like that. Humans change. And now going back to my comment about don't sweat it, is because, first of all, there is a whole lot of these groups that are current groups. They got a whole lot of surprises coming. Folks, we really don't know how we are going to react to different situations unless you've been in them before. But there's a whole lot of people in this country, like the large majority, pretty much all, that haven't been to where we're going. They don't know the experience of it. In fact, most people in this country that would know what I'm talking about are probably from somewhere else, and they came here to escape it. There are a lot of people in groups. If you do have groups, expect this. There are going to be a lot of people, or at least several people, depending how big your group is. Well, let's just say it's not going to turn out like you expected. Some people are going to just have full-on mental breakdowns. Other people aren't going to be as honest as what you thought they were. There's going to be a whole lot of stuff like that happens. So that's one of the first messages I wanted to say. That's not the first or the only thing that I want to talk about in relating to this. But now I want to open it up and talk to those individuals that either have groups or are part of groups or whatever, because this is incredibly important. And I hope that maybe I can take some of the bad spots of my life and not only use them as a learning experience for myself, but maybe try to help you before you make a mistake. People are people. And you know, one of the attitudes that I have is the best way not to be disappointed in other people is not to have high expectations of them. Works pretty well, really. And you may, or depending on how long you've been around or what all you've heard me talk about, you may or may not know, I've had a couple fairly decent businesses in the past. And I can undoubtedly say that all of those businesses was ruined by somebody else, not myself. Without going into personal details, I've been locked away from the equipment and supplies needed to be able to put out orders, therefore causing the business to be destroyed. I've had information stolen from me that prevented me from being able to operate. It was a different business. You name it. And I'm telling you, here's the craziest part of it all. In both those instances, the reason for that was just simply because people were so pissed off that I was succeeding. That's the long and short of it. They couldn't stand it. It drove them nuts. It drove them nuts. In one cases, the person didn't even have a desire to do anything. And I think it pissed them off to see that I could have things. I could have more things that they could have by not doing anything. I don't know. But in the other instance, it was because, you know, they went and worked, put in their 40-hour roughly week and all that, and went and punched the time clock and all that. And here, I can make money from home. And I guess that was part of, I'm sure not all of, but a large part of where the riff was there. And they were both people, by the way, that should have been behind me, should have been supporting me. They were actually both people that actually benefited from it themselves. The reason for me telling you that is because I'm pretty certain you're probably going to run into people like that. I'm also certain that you are going to run into snakes, and not the slithery ones on the ground, but you know what I mean. Dishonest people. You are going to run into liars. You are going to run into disloyal people. Loyalty is going to be a pain in the ass, to be quite honest. That's going to be a number one trait. If you're a loyal person, and believe me, there are people out there that know. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people. I'm not too often wrong when it comes to meeting people and knowing whether or not I can trust them. And I'm real damn good at figuring things out. And the other thing I'm good at is letting go. Probably a little too good at that. But I can only play the cards that I've been dealt. I just know one thing. I don't play to lose. And I highly recommend that folks get that attitude. I highly recommend that you work on the skills needed to identify those people in your group, in your circles, that are not honest, that are not loyal, that are not stable, that are not willing to help, and that may want to destroy you for whatever reason. And you got to remove them. The reason why I'm saying this, and I'm saying this now, is because during a crisis, those qualities, if you will, of those individuals will very likely become enhanced. Just the way it usually goes. Don't sweat it if you're not surrounded by people. Don't sweat it if you don't have a large mag. Focus on your immediate circle, those that you plan to be with. I mean, full on living with. Focus on that. Focus on your supplies. Focus on everything that you're going to need, as I've said many times before, to be able to totally survive on your own with very as little outside of your realm as possible. You know, if you can store enough water to where you don't even have to go out to get water, that's perfect. Let the dust settle. Let the craziness happen, because there's not a damn thing you're going to do to stop that. Don't expect to be able to go and get supplies or anything like. No. Hopefully you've got your supplies. Don't be trying to go get extras, and don't be trying to go be a hero. Take care of you and yours. Let the dust settle, however long that may take. 30, 60, 90 days, or even longer. You'll know. The gunfire and the screaming and the craziness will settle down. I know, not a pleasant thought, but a factual one. And then, it is at that moment, believe it or not, contrary to what all the prepper channels say, it is that moment that is the moment for you to start building those that you are going to rebuild with. Because you could be in a group of 100 people right now, and I guarantee you that for whatever reason, 25% of those people, that's 1/4, are bad news. For whatever reasons I stated before. Disloyalty, instability, you name it. And I'm not taking a knock at those people. I'm just telling you fact. You're not going to have all 100 batting 100. And the thing is you have to ask yourself, how much damage are they going to do within that group of 100 people? I mean, you're talking about stress and situations that people aren't even remotely familiar with in this country. You're talking about dealing with a level of loss unseen in this country. That's going to flip people out. Remember what I said, if they've got evil, if they've got negative attributes about themselves, a crisis usually enhances that. So if a person's unstable and they get thrown a huge crisis, and let's say, and I'll call it stimulus after stimulus after stimulus happens, maybe losing loved ones or, what says that they're not going to snap and start harming their own people? Because stuff like that happens. The human brain can do some really messed up things when it short circuits. It's an amazing thing, but it can also do some pretty messed up stuff. So don't think that you're just down and out if you don't have a big group. I work with 2 groups, and I look at it the same way that I look at my expectations of other people. I don't like to count on or rely on anyone or anything but me and the Father, of course. Why? My experiences. I'd rather do it myself. Make sure it gets done. Make sure it's done right. And I typically don't complain when I'm doing it. After a major event, after the dust settles and you start running into people as you go out yourself, those are more likely going to be, for one, you're more, well, obviously you're more resilient ones, but they're also going to be the ones more likely looking for actual survival. Okay? Those people that aren't interested in actual survival and rebuilding, restoring,
probably aren't going to stick around very long. And the reason why is because they're going to run out of resources in that area, so they're going to move to another area. They're going to go and keep finding more and more and more resources because, again, they don't, for whatever reason, rebuild or build, period. They just take. Not what of those that are left, because there's going to be a lot that are, we'll say, dispatched while performing their duties. There will still be some left, and more likely they'll be grouped up in gangs at that point and roving around in gangs. And again, they won't stick in an area. They'll go through an area, they'll get everything they can out of it, and they'll move on to another area. How do I know this? Because the United States isn't the only country on the planet. And all kinds of stuff has happened in other nations, the other ones besides the United States. And you can read about it. Plenty of information. Absolute wealth of information on how people act during different types of crisis. War, famine, pestilence, all kinds of information. It's all right there for you to read. And reading that, doing so, will give you a bit of an understanding at what we can expect. However, and that's a huge caveat here, the United States is going to be a bit different. It's going to be a bit worse. And the reason why is because how comfortable we are. And that's not even a good word. How spoiled, how privileged. And I know. I'm not trying to run anybody off with woke speak. It's not what I mean. But it's been a long, long damn time in this country since a needy person didn't have anywhere they could turn to get help. And I mean, I'm not talking on, individual cases or areas of kids. I'm talking about entirely. Probably the 30s, right? The Great Depression, I would imagine. And I think that's what we're looking at. How are people going to react to that? How are people going to react to the thought of all the safety nets being gone? Because that's what we're looking at. I mean, we won't have the government for a safety net because I have a feeling they're going to implode. Or at least the financial framework which they work within. How's that sound? Sounds good, right? I think it's going to implode. And I think you're going to see all the social programs and all that. I think essentially the government's going to shut down at some point. It's inevitable. So then you're going to lose all of that. Well, as you probably know, the food pantries across the nations actually, are worn very thin. And there's no more, no way they can take on more. And they can't even remotely cover everybody. And at that point, those food pantries that do even have anything aren't going to have it for long because guess what? People are going to take it. And I don't know, to be honest with you, because I haven't researched this specific thing. I think Steve is in the chat. If he's still in there, Steve might know. He knows history much better than I do. The Great Depression, I don't know if people were completely out of luck then. I don't know if there was a point in time to where the food pantries were all down and churches were all, everybody was just, there was no more safety net. I don't know if it got actually to that point during the Great Depression or not. I suspect that it did. And I'm pretty certain that it's going to get that way this time. And that is concerning. That is extremely, extremely concerning, because that's how you cause unrest immediately, and certainly is food shortages. I'm telling you, we're looking at a hell of a mess here. But you better go through and take a really good stock in your circle. All of your circles. Your innermost circles. Just absolutely all of them. Because I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of unexpected things for a lot of people. And I don't want anybody to be caught off guard with it. Be prepared for it. And it's not even, like I say, necessarily in your group or in your, but even just neighbors or, you have to be prepared for that unexpected, because when people get put under an extreme amount of stress and put in positions that they're not familiar with, sometimes they don't do so well at keeping it together. And I'm not striking out or insulting individuals like that. My hope is that individuals in that position get help. I hope that there's somebody around them as they start to slip, we'll call it, that are able to reel them in, if you will. And calm them down. That's one of my abilities. And sometimes it doesn't matter how good you are at doing it. Sometimes it ain't gonna make a difference. Be prepared for that. Be prepared for that. Be prepared for changes of all kinds on all levels. And be prepared to have to, modify your situation in order to overcome the challenge. That's going to be so critical in all of this. The ability to adapt. The ability to adapt. But other things that are critical too is knowing when to fold. Knowing when to put your cards down. That covers anything from people to gear. Don't waste too much time, energy on gear that's a lost cause or whatever the case. We're the same with people. Get rid of it and move on. That's all you can do. But be prepared for a lot of changes. And even in the current situations that are happening right now, be prepared. Because like I mentioned a little bit earlier, with like this information coming out from Southwest about them no longer mandating it for their, I'm not going to say words, I don't know exactly how it was worded, but from my understanding, they are no longer going to terminate the employees that have not complied. I'll word it that way. I can't remember exactly how the headline words it, so we're in for a ride. We are truly in for a ride. Oh, by the way, side note, I refreshed the page, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Oh. So I have the first video since since we have been remonetized. I have the first video that I upload, that is, that I can't seem to get monetized. I don't think they're going to let me monetize it. It's still under review. And that was the last video I put up. The one about the censored YouTube comment. And, yeah. They haven't let me get monetization on that. Can you believe that? All those videos that I've been uploading on all those topics, with me being as as direct with you as I can on it, and they chose that to say no. I guess it's because I called them out on their censorship. I don't know. I just thought that was humorous. Went all this way. I do hope they do, because that's a hell of a streak, man. Like over 50 videos in a row was monetized. Let me see when the first one is that's not. Okay. Right there. I wonder how many that is down the list. So I've had like 60 videos, I guess, consecutive videos that they let me have monetization on. I don't know. I can't figure it out. But I think it's hilarious. I don't get very many views, so it's not like that's going to be fortune coming my way. In fact, before I can even cash out, I'll probably have to have 2-3 months in before I'd make enough to cash out. You got to have $100 to cash out of AdSense. So I'm guessing, I don't know, because I still don't have a number yet. They haven't shown me a number yet, but it's probably going to take me about 2 or 3 months to be able to build up enough to cash out. So I don't expect to make a fortune. But anyway, I just thought that was humorous. I thought I would share that. Anyway, just reading the chat there. Steve said, it is good training for people to object, protest, stand up for themselves, and get successful results. The saying has been, success breeds success. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll tell you what, in one of those businesses that I referred to earlier, if that person would have continued their support, and by that I mean just not try to frickin' destroy the business or me, and possibly even better, kept doing their part, their job, man, I'll tell you what, that would have been a hell of a business. That would have been a hell of a successful business. It was making yard games, believe it or not. Making yard games. But I was doing a hell of a job at selling them. Sold them on eBay, largely. And sold the hell out of them. My biggest problem was being able to keep up, because originally the sets were painted, and that didn't work out real well. That was way messy and took way too much time. So then I started wrapping them in vinyl, signed vinyl. And so it would take me about 2 hours per set to wrap, and that was me busting my ass on them to get it done that soon. But yeah, took me about 2 hours to wrap a set of, it was called Hillbilly Golf, Ladder Golf. There's a million names for it. That's the sets we made, and we made custom sets. I put custom lettering on the bars and all that. They were really nice sets. And, yeah, it's sad. And I busted my butt. Building that business. And just to have it torn down. And, sad thing is, I'm pretty certain this person has done this to business after business after business. So, but it is what it is. Luckily, they only got me once. Pretty sure they got their ex-husband multiple times. But anyway. a shame. You know? It's a shame. It shouldn't be so hard to build. But anyway. Really don't know what else to say on that topic. Just be careful out there. Use a lot of discernment. And most importantly, don't bullshit yourself and do what you need to do. That's the most important part. Go ahead and jump over to headline. And then we will get out of here. I gotta get trash cans out tonight, so I don't get disowned by the dog. Alright. Starting from this morning, North Korea launches 2 ballistic missiles less than a month after hypersonic missile tests, says reports. So, apparently one of them was a new style of missile. So, need to pay attention to that stuff. Again, you know, as I told you, I believe it was last night's show, triage this information. You know, don't put things to the forefront that aren't standing right in front of you. Biden's climate czar and private jet lover, John Kerry, says U.S. pivot from fossil fuel will create many good-paying jobs in Mexico. Yeah, because that's what we want, right? Colorado Middle School launches probe after teen says teacher taped mask to the students' faces in class. Yeah, that's no joke. Literally taped the masks to their faces. New Zealand reports highest daily New Zealand reports highest daily number of COVID-19 cases despite ramping up vaccination effort. China's coal and power crisis hits global economy. Russia will continue to ditch U.S. dollar in economy and trade, says an official. Turkey orders arrest of 158 suspects with links to Muslim cleric Gulen, accused of being behind the 2016 coup attempt. What me? China registers most daily COVID cases since September, prompting soft lockdowns to contain virus spread. Exiled opposition to be made stateless. Top Minsk... I guess that's a name, Silovic, once Belarusians who left to work for the West, stripped of citizenship. It wasn't capitalized, so that's kind of why I wasn't sure. Russia and Israel are united by both nations' resolute rejection of anti-Semitism and any manifestations of xenophobia, says Putin. Poland will be punished for challenging EU law primacy, European leader warns, as Warsaw claims Brussels is devoid of democracy. Police remove survivors of 1980s mass canola oil poisoning from Madrid's El Prado Museum, where they threaten suicide. I meant to dig into this a little bit more, because I'm not real sure what the heck they're talking about with this mass canola oil poisoning. I find that kind of interesting. I need to dig into that. And it may be something that's just not ringing a bell, but let's see. Facebook attacks media over not yet published reports and accuses it of orchestrated gotcha campaign. EU has already made up its mind about whether Ukraine can join the bloc, so it's pointless even asking questions, Zelensky blasts. Trial of 96-year-old Nazi concentration camp secretary charged with complicity to murder over 10,000 people begins in Germany. Brits concerned murder of MP will lead to internet crackdown after officials call for an end to online anonymity. Bangladesh police arrest 450 people linked to attacks on Hindu homes and religious sites in worst unrest for over a decade. Moscow's decision to halt its representation to NATO will worsen ice age of relations between Russia and bloc, says German FM Moz. Let's see. China warns U.S. not to divide globe and spread its own form of rule at Summit of Democracies. Let's see. After burying the idea of discussions with Moscow, NATO must take first steps if it wishes to improve relations, says Lavrov. UK abuse victims let down by institutional failings after police distrusted their allegations against Labour peer Lord Janner. Washington's hysteria about Chinese hypersonic missile threat is just an excuse for its own military expansion, says Beijing. Let's see. 10,000 Yemeni children killed or maimed in violence since 2015, says UNICEF. Let's see. Afghan interpreters cry for help as UK government drags feet on rescue flights, says reports. Poland will bow to EU's demands and dissolve Supreme Court disciplinary chamber, country's prime minister announces. Rumors of Chinese hypersonic missile tests don't worry Russia, given Allied relations, Moscow says, as U.S. warns of global threat. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that Russia isn't very concerned with China's weapons. Bitcoin will skyrocket to 168,000 when futures start trading on Wall Street, says Fundstrat. Japanese man arrested after using deepfake technology to uncensor and resell porn videos in first AI case. Czech president's aides under investigation for not informing officials or public that the leader was extremely ill. Moscow proposed adding U.S. to Normandy format discussions on Ukraine, but Germany and France rejected it, reveals Lavrov. Czech lawmakers moved to strip ailing President Zeman of power amid constitutional crisis. Universal fury batters chief of staff. Texas governor accused of attacking trans kids and rallying right with bullshit and fear, I'm just reading the headline, over bill on gender participation in sports. A pandemic hit NHS waste over £560 million yearly on unnecessary and addictive pills with severe withdrawal symptoms, says a study. Russia to fine Google up to 20% of annual turnover for failing to delete banned content. One person died from COVID every 5 minutes in Romania in October amid lagging vaccination campaign and hospital capacity crunch. Conservative radio host leaves listeners scratching their heads as he says he intentionally got COVID to gain natural immunity. I don't know why they were scratching their heads. I don't know. I mean, they used to have parties years ago, right? And kids had chicken pox, right? They'd get their kids together, say, I'll get chicken pox and get it over with. Now, if there's a chicken pox outbreak, They act like it's the end of the world. Brother of Manchester Arena bomber leaves UK ahead of scheduled appearance at inquiries he's refused to cooperate with. Let's see. Trump tears into Colin Powell and beautiful media coverage in wake of his death despite big mistakes. Let's see. The war will go on. Supporters of far-right, anti-feminist, and LGBT male state declare after Russia bans it as an extremist group. 60-day state of emergency declared in Ecuador as government focuses on soaring drug violence. Latvia orders lockdown as PM decries low COVID-19 vaccine uptake and far-right MP blames Russian colonist reluctant to get the jab. FBI raids Washington house of Oleg Deripaska, once Russia's richest man, reports say, as clips show officers cordoning off the scene. UK partners with billionaire Bill Gates to deploy £400 million green investment package London can't afford on its own. Hang on, I gotta have a sip of coffee. I'm pretty sure we don't have a whole lot more. Couple of vapes. Okay. It's a perfect time of year for caramel apple. UK partners with billionaire Bill Gates to deploy... Oh, I read that one. Plane with 21 on board crashes in Texas and burst into flames. Now get this. From my understanding, they all walked away. From my understanding, every single one of them walked away. If you don't want to have children, get the vaccine. Football owner dismisses COVID jab because it would genetically modify me. And YouTube, I'm just reading the headline. Meghan McCain says work culture at TV show The View was so toxic she threw up in a garbage can after a spat with Joey Behar. I would probably throw up in a garbage can after being in the same room with Joey Behar. So there's that. Ontario Premier won't apologize after telling immigrants to go somewhere else if they want to sit around and do nothing. Queen tells magazine to find more worthy recipient for the Oldie of the Year award after nomination. And I would concur. Haitian gang demand $17 million for release of kidnapped U.S. and Canadian Christian missionaries. Terminal 2 of Manchester Airport evacuated over concerns of suspicious package. Sacrificing sovereignty is the opposite of why Poland joined the EU, but don't expect Polexit from it, a veteran observer tells RT. Homeland Security Secretary tests positive for COVID-19 despite being vaccinated. Border between Germany and Poland could collapse amid rise in refugees from Middle East crossing through Belarus, Berlin police warn. Southwest Airlines cancels plan to fire unvaxxed workers awaiting exemptions after denying sick-outs forced mass flight disruption. That's exactly how the headline worded it. And it's like, so they denied this whole thing, about all the canceled flights and all of that. And I can't prove to you one reason or another why they had so many canceled flights. However, after that all went on, then people started protesting. I believe it was outside of their headquarters, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a whole lot of people protesting. That was a little bit harder to deny. because that was a little bit more visual as far as, okay, yeah, well, we see all the people standing there with signs. So then I guess they rethought their plan, but as I said earlier, don't think this is over. They're just going to come at us from a different direction. And just because Southwest turned around, at least at this point, again, we don't know what's going to happen. It's a wild card. All of this is a wild card. Just keep a close eye on it. Just keep a close eye on it. I sit there and I think about what's going on, and it's very concerning, and the reason why is because if they purge all those people that refuse in all the different areas, like medical, like government, law enforcement, military, all that, then which one of those cats in those organizations are still going to be on your side? No country has veto on Ukraine's NATO aspirations, Pentagon chief says, as Moscow warns Kiev joining bloc goes beyond red lines. White House has weighed tapping National Guard to address mounting supply chain backlog. North Korea says it tested a new type of submarine-launched ballistic missile with advanced guidance and control system. And that was the last headline I shared. And that's why I said something about it being a new missile earlier when I read you the other headline that announced when they initially did it. Because I saw this article as well. So, I'm telling you, rapidly changing. And there's not a single one of us that can tell you exactly how this is going to go down, or what's going to happen first, or what, All we can do is give you our best educated guesses, if that's what they are, educated guesses, and opinions, and, that's all any of us can truly do. But I would say to expect some madness would be a good word to put on it. Be a good word to put on it. Today was clearly an uptick in the news and information that came out. And I'm going to make the short-term prediction that it will continue. I think tomorrow's going to be pretty jaw-dropping. I really do, and I think Thursday's going to be a doozy. I think Friday's going to be a doozy as well. So, I'm getting pretty accurate at this. So, I think today, which was pretty noisy, it wasn't really super impactful, if you will. I think that's going to change tomorrow. I think tomorrow's going to be busy, and I think it's going to leave a dent. So we'll see. We'll see. God willing, we'll be back here to talk to you about it. So anyway, I am going to get out of here. I hope to see you folks tomorrow. Hope you all have a good evening. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.